And joining us now is Dimitrios Pandermalis. He is the president of the new Acropolis Museum. And we're very happy to welcome you to Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Nice
to meet you.
For our viewers, thank you, who perhaps don't know as much about this as you do, let's put up some information, background about the new Acropolis Museum. It was designed by Bernard Tschumi. It opened last June 2009 at a cost of 230 million Canadian dollars. It is 150,000 square feet of exhibition space, and it's located 300 meters southeast of the Parthenon. And we have a couple of pictures we're going to show as well, just to situate it a little better. This is the view of the Parthenon from the new museum. And then we have an aerial view of the museum with Athens in the background. What a beautiful building. Now, I should ask you, Dr. Pandermalis.
Yes.
The Acropolis has existed for 2,500 years without an accompanying museum. So why did you need one?
Because you live so many years after the construction of the classical Acropolis, and today we need to protect the sculpture of the Acropolis. So the very sensitive and delicate pieces of sculpture from the original building. You know, in our times, we take from the buildings down sculpture from the Renaissance or Baroque period, I mean 300, 400, 500 years ago. You can imagine for pieces that were outside for so many years, it is now time to come inside the house.
So you need to protect it from what?
From the environment. You know, material is also aging like us, so we have to take care. It's very sensitive, very delicate, the material.
You built the museum on stilts. How come?
The museum was constructed above an area which we excavated, and it was constructed with piles on this excavation, and we incorporated this excavation to the museum, inside the museum.
And tell us some of the things in the collection that you are most proud of.
The collections are mostly architectural sculpture, so sculpture from the buildings. And these buildings are the most famous buildings of the classical Greek antiquity. There are also some freestanding statues, and there are beautiful vases and other exhibits, almost everything what we have from the antiquity. But most important thing is that all this sculpture, or most of this, has a name. They are combined with important names of artists or of politicians or with other important people. So it is very clear to see history in these exhibits. They are aesthetically really very exciting, but they are combined also with real history.
I'd now like to ask you not about what's there, but what about is not there? The top floor of the museum, direct view of the Parthenon, controversial because of what's not there. Tell me what you mean.
Correct.
Or tell me what I mean. I know what I mean, but you tell everybody else what I mean.
Let me make a comment, because many people think that this museum is constructed for pieces, for art pieces. They are missing. They are not in Athens. This is not true. This is the first time that we present a complete Acropolis, the Acropolis and the slopes of the Acropolis and the private houses around the Acropolis. We have a lot of masterpieces in the museum, and of course we are missing some pieces in the third floor, as you correctly said. These are the Parthenon sculpture. Around half of the sculpture is not existing at the moment in Athens. The monument was separated in the early 19th century, so a lot of sculpture came to the British Museum.
This is the Elgin Marble we're talking about, right?
The so-called Elgin Marbles.
Elgin Marbles, which some of which are in the British Museum. How did they end up there?
They made a long trip to England, to United Kingdom, and Lord Elgin wanted to have this sculpture for his own villas and palaces in England, but finally he had a difficult financial situation and had to sell this to the British government. and the British government gave these marbles to the British Museum.
And they've been in Britain for almost 200 years, right?
Yes.
When did Greece decide that it wanted these pieces back?
From the very first moment. I mean, it was a discussion already in the 19th century, international discussion, about this separation of the marbles. But officially, this started, the asking for these marbles from the side of the Greek government started as early as the Second World War at the beginning. And they get the promise in Greece from the British that they'll get after the war the pieces back.
After the war is over?
Yes, the war was over.
Hasn't quite happened yet.
Came not, and finally, in the early 80s of the last century, Marina Mercouri made from this issue a major political problem.
She was the former actress who was the culture minister, and she made the request.
Exactly.
And Britain's answer has always been?
The most important argument was, okay, we can give these pieces to you back, but you don't have an appropriate house to present these pieces, well, not a museum.
That's not true anymore, though.
Now, this is not more true. We have the museum, and I must say they appreciate also our museum, but now it is another discussion what practically is a metropolitan museum around the world, that these major museums, they are in a sense encyclopedic museums, so they need to have important pieces from around the world to present world history, to make comparisons between Japan, Africa, Athens, and so on. It's another concept. But the answer is, okay, they have a lot from Greece, and we're speaking only of the Parthenon marbles and only of the separation of sculpture. For example, we have pieces, the body is in London and the head is in Athens. There are figures separated in two between Athens and London. And I think every reasonable person would say it is time to reunify these pieces, because these pieces belong to a very symbolic monument.
But the British think they are the rightful legal owners of the pieces, of the Elgin Marbles. Are they not?
I have to answer to that. That is not, there are not legal papers, so to say, that they have the ownership. Also, the Greeks, they have no papers for that.
Right. I guess there wouldn't be.
Yes, but I think these sculptures, they belong to the world community. They are for many years symbols, so international symbols for democracy. It is the first monument of the first democracy of the world. So they belong to everyone.
Tell me this, the Greek government has at times accused the British Museum of crime and plunder. Do you share that view?
I would say the way that Parthenon was dismantled, how Elgin and the agent of Elgin, of course, took the pieces from the building, it was really barbarian.
Well, that's interesting you put it that way, because...
Yeah, I can tell you facts.
I understand, but I think Elgin's position probably, listen, who knows, but Elgin's position may have been, if I didn't take this, the pieces would have been destroyed if I'd left them there, they would have been stolen, they would have been looted. I saved them by taking them to Britain. That probably was his position. Is that fair to say?
Look at that. He took pieces which were easy to take from the building, because it is complicated. You have to take all the construction, all the heavy marbles above the sculpture to take the pieces from the building. So he took everything which was easy to take, and he left on the building the other pieces. So he left a lot on the building. So why he didn't save everything?
I don't know. Let me
too.
You don't know either, I guess. When asked if the Elgin Marbles would ever be returned or loaned to Greece, the current head of the British Museum is said to have said the following: "I do not believe that there is a case for returning the marbles. It is a very happy result of history that half of these surviving fragments of these sculptures are in London. They have a good purpose. They have a purpose here because this is where they can do most good. The British Museum can situate the achievements of these Greek sculptures in the context of the wider ancient world. The British Museum is one of the great cultural achievements of mankind. It is very important that there is a place where all the world can store its achievements. Lots of people would not agree that there should be a special case for the Parthenon. It is an argument, but not necessarily a fact. I personally don't see any difference between Greek visual culture and the visual culture of Italy and Holland, which is also spread around the world." What do you think of this point?
Yeah, this is a mixing of true and not true, of things that are true and not true. Of course, the British Museum is a major cultural institution, and they were also very advanced at the beginning of their museum. They opened the museum to the public, first of all. But we don't speak about the Parthenon sculpture they are in the British Museum. We speak about the separated sculpture. So they don't have the whole of the sculpture in the British Museum. And the sculpture, they don't belong to anybody. They belong to the monuments from which they derive. And the context is in another place. I mean, it is not a problem between British people and Greek people. It is a problem of the integrity of monuments. It is another question. I understand that major museums like to present specimens, examples from around the world. And it is enough in the British Museum from the same period.
But tell me this.
Yes.
There's the, as we say in English, the thin edge of the wedge. Once you start to take materials that have been taken from one part of the world to another part of the world, you know, if they return the Elgin Marbles, then other countries who have other things that didn't start in their countries, that started elsewhere, other countries are going to make claims on that material as well. And then suddenly everybody's going to want their stuff back. Do you know what I'm saying?
Of course, of course.
So is that part of the concern here?
It is a little different, the question. The question is a question of integrity of monuments. Mm-hmm. I said yesterday in my speech that as people, they have their human rights. Monuments, they have also their own rights, especially masterpieces, and especially monuments, they are symbols. And I'm speaking about the integrity. And there are not so many cases in the world. I believe also that it's not practically possible and perhaps not necessary to claim all pieces back, all countries of origin, to ask for everything to get back.
But some things.
Some things, some very special things, and especially if it is a question of integrity of the monuments.
Sure. Have you had other things that were taken from Greece, were in other countries, returned to you in Greece?
Not of this special meaning as the Parthenon is.
What other pieces besides the Elgin Marbles are you trying to have repatriated to Greece?
I mean, it's now publishing in Greece a series of books with Greek monuments. They are abroad. But about repatriation, if we should speak about repatriation or about reunification, I would say, it is only Parthenon and the Parthenon sculpture. I think it is a very special case.
So this is it. This is the case.
This is the case because from the Acropolis we have there are in the British Museum also other pieces from other monuments. One of these famous ladies, the Caryatids, we have 5 in Athens. One is in London, from the temple of the Athena Nike, of the Athena as a victory. We have also many parts of the frieze in the British Museum, but we are speaking about the Parthenon marbles.
What does the museum and or the Greek government plan to do now?
I think now, through the construction of the museum, it's a new platform for discussion, a new base for negotiation, and I think we could do that in another way. We could collaborate with the British Museum. I have respect that North European and American museums today they have difficulties to get new material, new art pieces, because illicit trade today is not so easy as it was. It's criminal today. And so the only possibility is to have good relationships with the countries of the South, so to make exchanges.
Maybe they'll loan it to you.
Yes.
That's possible.
Yes, it's possible. And we can send to the British Museum new pieces from Greece. They can have a profit from this, and it's good for us too.
Okay, tell me this. If that doesn't happen, you know the Olympics are coming up in London in 2012. You know this expression in English, to make a stink? Will the Greek government or will the Greek people make a stink at those Olympics in order to get their way on this?
Okay, the Olympics is a good opportunity to do that. And I think it is a question of the quality of our societies today. I mean, it's different today as in the 19th century. And in the 21st century, we have possibility of mobility of art pieces, of exchanges, of talking also about very difficult issues, difficult for us, difficult for the British Museum. But why not? I think we should try.
You are trying. And we thank you for coming in tonight to TVO and telling us all about it.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Pandermalis, the president of the new Acropolis Museum. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the hospitality.